Today's khutbah is about a very difficult subject to explain. It's about a concept that is at the heart of our relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal. Every one of us is a believer in Allah, and yet that faith of ours in Allah is tested. It's not just about believing in the concept of one God or the concept of a God that deserves worship, but actually we have a deep, intimate relationship and a connection with Allah Azza wa Jal. وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى. But the idea of a serious relationship first, let me just say a few things about that. There are people that you know in life that you have a connection with. Some of you are maybe alienated or separated from a close friend or maybe a family member. Many of us travel and move to different parts of the world, so you're not as connected to your uncle or your grandfather or whoever else. You know they exist. You have a relationship with them. You may even share a last name with them, but that does not mean you're intimately connected to them. You may not even have kept up with their life for the last 10, 15 years, or 20 years. And you don't know all their kids' names. You don't know what their life struggles are like. None of it. Even though you're related, it's a very distant relationship. Once in a while, you go back and you catch up and all of that. But then other than that, you're not really connected. And then compare that to some other relationships you have that are daily, that you interact with daily, that you talk to on a daily basis, right? So in life, there are relationships that exist, but they're connected by a thread. They're not very strong. And then there are relationships that are pulling at us every single day. They impact us. They affect the way we think. They affect our emotions on a daily basis. Those are very strong and intimate relationships. It becomes like that when it comes to our relationship with Allah. Allah Azza wa Jal is, all of us believe in Him. All of us have a relationship with Him. But for some of us, it becomes just a concept. He's there. He's in the background. I know He's there. Even when we're praying, we're not really that connected to Him. And even if we are connected, we don't really understand what that connection, what that relationship really means. And what it's supposed to be is a very close, deep, intimate friendship. And a close, deep, intimate, relationship where all of our daily conversations, there's no conversation we have with anyone else a part of it is actually a conversation with Allah too. That's supposed to be a conversation with Allah also. One of the fundamental benefits of the 5 prayers is actually, and this is why the Fatiha is called the prayer itself. The Fatiha itself can be called a prayer, is because the Fatiha, part of it Allah speaks and part of it we speak. Meaning we have a conversation with Allah. We're actually directly communicating with Allah. When Allah says, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, He's speaking. But when we say, Iyaka na'budu wa Iyaka nasta'een, and so on, we're speaking. So it's actually, when both parties are speaking, there's a conversation happening. And that's supposed to be when you have a close connection with someone, you talk to them every day. You talk to them multiple times a day. That's actually what the prayer is supposed to be. And that's literally where the word salah comes from sila, connection. So with that in mind, I want to share one dimension of that connection you and I are supposed to have with Allah, and how that's supposed to help. Allah created human beings in difficulty, and He created human beings in heavy burden. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. We certainly created the human being buried under heavy loads, exhaustive labor. Emotionally you're struggling, physically you're taxed, you're struggling, health-wise you may be struggling, financially you may be struggling, because of people you may be struggling. This life, Allah designed it to be difficult. Sometimes you look at other people and you say, they have it so much easier than I do. But you don't know what other difficulties Allah gave them that are invisible from you. Everyone has difficulties. Everyone has challenges. You would think, for example, that the Fir'aun had kingdom, empire, he had the world's largest army at the time. He had everything you could want, all the wealth you could want, all the power you could want, all the status you could want. He has everything. And how come he has everything and the believers have nothing? And yet Allah describes about him that he lived in a state of fear. وَنُرِيَ فِرْعَوْنَ وَهَامَانَ وَجُنُودَهُمَا مَا كَانُوا يَحْذَرُونَ. كَانُوا يَحْذَرُونَ. They used to live in a state of fear. He used to get nightmares at night. He couldn't find peace. Sometimes people have material things, but they don't have peace. Sometimes people have physical health, but they don't have mental health. They don't have emotional health. So all human beings were put in a state of struggle, and that's believers and non-believers. So the first, thing that I want to get across to all of you and remind myself of is because we are believers, that does not mean our problems disappear. It's not like because I'm a believer, I'm not going to be sad. Or because I'm a believer, I'm not going to experience anxiety. Or I'm not going to have family problems. Or I'm not going to have financial problems or health problems or whatever else. Belief, our faith in Allah, our relationship with Allah is not there to solve our problems. It's not there to get rid of the people in our life that are causing us trouble. That's not the purpose of our faith. If that was the case, then the prophets, ﷺ, who had the most close connection with Allah, would have had the easiest life. They would deserve, because they would make dua, all their problems would disappear. And if you study the prophets, the closest people to Allah, ﷺ, they have the hardest life. They have the toughest life. And the toughest life comes to them not even from some faraway enemies, it comes to them from their own families. So in other words, it comes to them from people they can't even escape. They're with them every day. They're with them their whole lives. And they can't escape those problems. So the idea that human beings are created and were placed in a situation where they're going to struggle, they're going to have to deal with very difficult circumstances, very difficult situations, and even people. They're going to have to deal with that, is part of life. And that has nothing to do with, if you had more iman, you wouldn't have these problems. It doesn't work that way. As a matter of fact, the higher your iman, people assume the higher your iman, the problems are going to go away. No, the higher your iman, something else. And that something else is what I hope to explain to you today.